Hello everybody, I'm Richard Gon of Work to Live podcast version. This time, what I'd like to talk about is, anyway, what I'm going to talk about is English language, but actually this time the title is Native English Speakers or Non-Native English Speakers, which ones are better? So I'm going to, I use plural terms, which one, in the part, which ones are better, but actually, so if that expression is confusing, so please think like so. For example, so the title says native English speakers or non-native English speakers. Which ones are better? But actually, so if in other words, it's possible to say like native net native sp- native English speaking side and non-native English speaking side, which one is better? It's so if plural term is confusing, so in this like this, like I have told you, so it's fine to use. It's fine to replace from plural term into singular term for understanding or for avoiding confusions. Anyway, so before actually, so in my podcast, so I often digress. So maybe recently, so I began to digress, or I have begun to digress, which is why I'm thinking, so which is why even in this episode of podcast in British language or British English, so I'm thinking of posing a conclusion, or I'm thinking of telling you the conclusion of this episode. So the conclusion is becoming non-native speakers of English is better, but native speakers of English can overcome this disadvantage or this downside by studying or learning foreign languages. So I wrote this disadvantage, but actually, when it comes to pronouncing those phrases, or when it comes to speaking, sometimes some English words are confusing, which is why. So if you can't listen to me carefully, because to start with, I'm on the non-native speaking side of English language, and see, if you get confused after listening to the conclusion of this podcast, so please think like, by learning foreign languages, you can overcome this downside or this demerit. So which is how you can avoid confusions. Anyway, so why so anyway, maybe this part can be the most important stuff for you, because so most listeners are non-natives, no, not non-native speakers of English language, but most of the listeners are native speakers of English language according to the demographics of this podcast. So that this demographics shows that most listeners live in English-speaking nations. So the largest part, the largest part of the listeners live in the United States of America, and after, so coming after the United States of America. So of course there are some Japanese people who are listening to this episode, but actually, so Canadian people and British people listen to this episode, or not this episode, but this podcast. And actually, so some German people frequently listen to my podcast. So Dankeschön. I don't know whether Dankeschön is a correct German expression, or it's correct German word or not. But actually, so anyway, so and German people, and maybe there is small numbers of, or small ratios of French people and other European people listen to this podcast. Anyway, so this describing the, and of course there are some African people, or there are some African people, or there are some accesses coming from Africa anyway. So African countries anyway. So, and thank you very much. Thank you very much for your listening to my podcast anyway. So, describing the demographics of my podcast. So the structure is what I have told you anyway. So coming back to the track of this episode. So why I thought so non-native English speakers are better. So that is because they have options in the course of their life, in the course of their lives, or in the course of lifetimes. So, for example, this is my case, but actually, so I think, for example, if you are non-native speaker of if you are non-native speakers of English language who are, for example, who are who are older people, for example. So I don't think this is related to you. If you are older people, I'm sorry, but actually, so if you are young, for example, if you are if you are teenagers, or if you are in your 20s, for example, if you are, for example, 20 years old, or 21st years old, or if you are late 20s, like, if, for example, if you are in your late 20s, like, if you are, for example, 26, 27, 28, 29, or 28, 29 years old, and if you are in your 30s, for example, this is really important, because it's, life is quite long, or some people say that the average life expectancy, it's going to emanate, or it's going to reach 100 years. So thinking about such a long life, or such a long span of lifetime. So, sometimes people fail in for example, in career paths, or career paths, for example. So I don't know I don't know, I can't pronounce the plural term of career paths, or paths, well, or path maybe it's a plural term for the path. And anyway, so, if people make mistakes. So with this why, so some, for example, if you live in, for example, if you live in France, and your mother tongue is French, but sometimes you may come to feel like immigrating into, or you may come to you may come you may come to be necessitated to immigrate into some English-speaking nation. So thinking about such a situation, or thinking about such a hypothetical situation, it's fine to move into, for example, English-speaking nation, and it's fine to start your own career in the place you immigrate into. So, like in this example, so, for example, if you're a French person, and your mother tongue is French, and if you, I don't know whether, so for example, if you failed in your works, or your page, so, for example, and if you get into a situation in it, for example, so, working in the United States of America is really more beneficial, or, but if you, for example, if you work in the United States, if you work in the United States of America, and you can get higher incomes than you're working in France, and earn a sort of high income, which means, so, the comparison I'm talking about is, I'm sorry, I'm really bad at explaining, because I'm using non-native language. And the comparison I'm talking about is that the paychecks between, so your hypothetical paycheck in United States of America, and your current paycheck in France, which is a hypothetical situation. And of course, if you're not French person, for example, you may say that I'm working in Germany, and my ethnicity is, for example, so my ethnicity is Austrian, for example. So in such a case, please think please think of the comparison between, for example, if your paycheck in Germany, and your hypothetical income in the United States of America, or Great Britain, and like which. So if you can get higher income by working in some English speaking nation, it's fine to move into that English speaking nation, for example. So I began to talk about German people, which is why, so it I think it might be more understandable, or comprehend, or I think it can be easier for you to think for you by posing German example. So, for example, if you are German, this is also a hypothetical situation, or this is this is also an imaginary situation. And if you are, for example, if you are a German person who earns out who earns sort of high income, for example, so anyway, so I don't tell you the exact value, because to know the exact value of to know the exact value of our annual income, I need to use the internet to investigate. But actually, it takes time. So which is why, so please, maybe if you are a German person, you I think you know the average income of your country. So which is, and maybe by comparing the average income of your country and the average income of of American people, maybe the latter one, or maybe American people American people get higher incomes than other European countries. Of course, there are many exceptions. For example, so maybe in the case of, for example, if you live in Liechtenstein, or if you live in, for example, I thought the name of that country, not Liechtenstein, but there is another German-speaking nation which is really a small country. So I thought the name of that, Luxembourg, and there are some small countries in which the local people get higher incomes, so considerably higher incomes than people living in other advanced European countries. Anyway, so if you live in such small countries with higher incomes, you don't have to immigrate into the United States of America. Apart from you have a business plan, and you have really a high possibility to create a lot of incomes by, for example, by launching a company, or launching companies. Anyway, apart from such an exceptional case, apart from such an exceptional case, so in the case of the people of in the case of the people of the general public of each country, or in each country, maybe in the case of European people, and including this, I think this is a case to people, the local people in my Asian country. But actually, so in the case of European people, they should immigrate into the United States of America for getting higher incomes, or for earning higher incomes. So like which, so if you can't be satisfied with, if you can't satisfy yourselves with your incomes, and if you come to wants to get higher incomes, it's fine to move into the United States of America. And for example, if you have already lived in the United States of America, well, or for example, so for example, if you say you are American, and you have earned sort of higher incomes, and but for example, if you can't be satisfied, if you can't get satisfied with your current income, and you have some possibilities to get higher incomes than your American incomes by immigrating into, for example, France or Germany or other Nordic countries. I think it's fine to immigrate into some European countries to get higher incomes than your current incomes in the United States of America. And in this time, the comparison is American income, or the income you get in the United States of America, and the hypothetical, or the imaginary incomes in some European countries. And the hypothetical European countries are higher than those American incomes you get in the United States of America in everyday lives. So it's fine to immigrate into the United States of not into the United States of America, but it's fine to immigrate into European countries, so that you can get higher incomes. Of course, it's necessary to be worried about the cost of living of each country. So for example, this is a case of Asian country, but people say, and this is this is a piece of information I got from some famous Japanese people. But actually, people say that the prices of real estate was a rents in Singapore are really high, which is why so there are such countries having for example having higher rents of real estate. So like which there are some countries with with higher cost of livings, which is why you have to investigate beforehand to know what to get information about which country has higher incomes and which country has lower incomes compared to your own countries. So like which you can avoid in kinds of situations in which in which you can't pay enough amount enough cost, like in which you can't pay enough cost for even just for living. Such a situation is really disastrous, which is why it's necessary for you to avoid such disastrous situations. Like you have to incur really high costs of living, which is why you can't pay enough money for living, which is why you can't enjoy higher disposable incomes, and which is really disastrous situations for you. So to avoid such sad situations, or to avoid such so catastrophic situations, it's necessary to, of course I don't tell you this, but it's necessary to investigate beforehand. So this is a caution, or this is a point you have to be careful of. And after so in this phase, I'm going to come back to the track, or I'm going to come back to the title of this episode. So native English speakers or non-native English speakers, which ones are better? So maybe I almost forgot this one. So people study English, which is why some people may think that native speakers of English language are better than living as non-native speakers of English language. But actually, that is not. I don't think that is correct. So that is because native speakers of English language, maybe native speakers of English language do not study foreign languages so much. So some English speakers study foreign languages, but many English speakers do not study English, do not study foreign languages, which is what I have heard of. So thinking about such a situation, so living as non-native speakers of English language is better, because you have to automatically you have to study English language in the course of your lives, which is why. So for example, if you are born as non-native speakers of English language, you do not you can so you can finish your own lives without experiencing studying foreign languages. But actually, so if you are born as non-native speakers of English language, you are forced to be you come to be forced to study foreign languages, which is really a fruitful experiences for you. So which is why I recommend you. Which is why I told you, so being native speakers of English language is better. But actually, if you say if you are a native speaker of English language, that you can overcome this downside, because but what you have to do to overcome this downside is to study foreign languages, which is what I'd like you to know this time. So I didn't tell you the conclusion of this episode again. So the conclusion is becoming non-native speakers of English is better, but native speakers of English language can overcome this disadvantage, or this downside, or this demerit by learning foreign languages, which is what I'd like you to know this time. So that's it. Thank you very much for your listening. See you.